Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit Kuwait on 21st and 22nd of December. First Indian Prime Minister to visit the Gulf country in 43 years. Winter session of Indian Parliament comes to an end amid protests and counter-protests. US delegation in Damascus for a meeting with Syria's new regime. And US Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner raises alarm on Pakistan's burgeoning long-range ballistic missile capabilities. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will undertake a two-day visit to Kuwait tomorrow at the invitation of the Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Mashal Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah. During the visit, the Prime Minister will hold discussions with the leadership of Kuwait. This will be the first visit of an Indian Prime Minister to Kuwait in 43 years. The visit is set to cement the historic ties between the two countries and strengthen the cultural, trade and people-to-people connect between India and Kuwait. In a special press briefing, External Affairs Ministry's Secretary Arun Kumar Chatterjee said that PM Modi's visit to the Gulf-Spik labour camp shows that the Government of India attaches considerable importance to the welfare of all its workers working in a foreign country.
India attaches considerable importance to the welfare of all the workers which are abroad. As I just mentioned, we have a community of around 1 million. As Secretary CPV and OIA, this is one of our priority areas that we have. So the idea of the visit of the Honorable Prime Minister to labour camp is to express that the amount of importance that the Government of India attaches to our workers who are there in a foreign country.
The Secretary further added that the two leaders will hold talks on all areas of cooperation, including trade, energy and defence ties between the two countries.
Talks, the two leaders are expected to discuss all areas of cooperation. At this moment, it would be not correct for me to really speculate or say what all they are going to discuss, but definitely we are looking at discussing all areas. Boosting trade ties, boosting energy ties and boosting defense ties would perhaps be a part of the discussions.
And for more updates, we are now joined by DD India correspondent Akshay Dongre from Kuwait City. Akshay, this is the first visit of an Indian Prime Minister to Kuwait in 43 years. What can we look forward to?
Well, the agenda is very clear, Tanvi, as far as Prime Minister's visit is concerned. This is a visit that is going to cement the historic ties between the two countries. Now, looking at Kuwait and the current geopolitical scenario, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's focus has for the past 1 decade been to secure India's energy supplies. And now Kuwait is the 6th largest crude oil supplier to India, 4th largest LPG supplier to India. In Kuwait, the largest expatriate community is of Indians. The Indian diaspora comprises of over 1 million people. Now that says a lot as far as the relation between the two countries is concerned. And the visit coming by an Indian Prime Minister in over 4 decades, the excitement is palpable here across the country, especially in Kuwait City, where a large number of Indians work in all spheres of life. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to meet the Indian expat community members, the Indian diaspora. He's going to go to a labour camp because a lot of workers from India come to Kuwait looking for a better employment opportunities as well. So Prime Minister will be coming here. He'll be having conversations, discussions with the Emir of Kuwait on all spheres of the two countries' bilateral engagements and working. So this visit clearly is to strengthen the relation between the two countries and to start a new chapter as far as the relation between India and Kuwait are concerned. Back to you, Tanvi.
Okay, Akshay, Kuwait is India's major energy partner. So what areas of collaboration will get further impetus with Prime Minister Modi's visit this time?
Well, trade remains one of the key pillar of a relation between the two countries. We are looking at a country that invests that has been investing over $10 billion in the country. In fact, our Kuwait Investment Authority has crossed over 10 billion mark as far as investments in India are concerned. Indian exports to Kuwait have also, for the first time ever, crossed 2 billion mark. So trade is going to be a key area of engagement and focus with both the countries, trying to ramp up these numbers to a significant new high. There is a lot of possibility of ramping up trade. There is a lot of potential of increasing these numbers because both the countries have a lot to offer to each other. Now India has been a major trade partner of Kuwait, both in terms of crude oil along with other essential equipment. In fact, the bonhomie between India and Kuwait was also visible during COVID times when Kuwait had given huge amounts of medical oxygen to India in times of need, and in reciprocal action, India had also supplied a lot of COVID vaccines to Kuwait when India had developed its own indigenous COVID vaccines too. So at that point of time and in other challenging times as well, both the countries have stood by each other. So there are going to be trade relations that will be in focus, cultural ties, the diaspora, education, healthcare, pharmaceutical industry, aviation industry. All of these are going to be a key focus when Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrives here tomorrow, and we can expect a lot of memorandums of understanding to be signed between the two countries, not only in these spheres that we have been mentioning, but in other arenas as well, including sports, including education, healthcare, pharmaceutical industry, and along with other key areas like energy supplies. So we can expect a lot of exchanges taking place, a lot of agreements signed between the two countries at the arrival of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And this is not just a huge movement for the Indian diaspora with Prime Minister Narendra Modi arriving here, but also for the government of Kuwait, as well as the Kuwaiti people too are quite excited to welcome Prime Minister Narendra Modi here in the country.
Okay, thank you very much, Akshay. Akshay Dongre reporting from Kuwait City on the upcoming visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Kuwait. So Prime Minister's visit is set to cement the historic ties between the two countries, like Akshay was saying, and strengthening the cultural trade and people-to-people connect between India and Kuwait. The Indian diaspora in Kuwait is elated at the news of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's historic visit to the country. Here's a conversation by DD India's Akshay Dongre with several prominent members of the Indian diaspora who are awaiting the arrival of Prime Minister Modi to the nation.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is making a historic visit to Kuwait. The relation between the two countries have been historically very strong, but it is going to be a huge impetus to the relation between the two countries with this historic visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister in over 40 years.
After Modi ji took charge, our respect in Kuwait and I think worldwide has improved. Indian passport is now one of the very leading passports. Earlier people were trying to immigrate to America, Canada. I think now it's going to reverse immigration that started. So we are in Kuwait, we are very proud of our Indian passport, and Kuwaitis respect us a lot. They respect the Indians a lot.
Already the impact is there when he is sitting in India. But once he comes here, our respect, our Indians as Indians and the India's respect will increase more in Kuwait especially and internationally also.
Everybody individual out of 1.1 million Indians and Kuwaitis which are connected, because it's a host country. They all are very, very excited to meet him, to greet him, and everybody say, Modi hai, to mumkin hai. Because the kind of work he has done in India, the kind of connect he has with all the Indians in Kuwait, with all the community, irrespective of any community, this is unparalleled and unmatchable.
This visit hopefully will bring and take bilateral relations to a new level. We've been waiting for this for a long time. We are aware that some developments may take place that will help the community as a whole, and we are really excited about it, and I think his visit will create some new impetus with the new government in Kuwait as well.
Modi, 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 Modi hai to mumkin hai.
Modi hai to mumkin hai.
Modi hai to mumkin hai is what the Indian community here has to say, the Indian diaspora, and as the experts have also been saying that this is the community that forms the backbone of also the Kuwaiti society as well. So clearly excitement brewing up before the visit of the Indian Prime Minister here in the country. With camera person Shiva, Makshi Dongre, DD India.
India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri is on a 3-day visit to Mauritius. This is the first high-level engagement between the two sides after formation of the new government in the island nation led by Dr. Naveen Chandra Ramgoolam. The visit reflects the priority India attaches to its relations with Mauritius under its Vision Sagar, Africa Forward policy and commitment to Global South. India and Mauritius share age-old ties rooted in shared history, culture and tradition and encompass cooperation across several sectors. The visit will further strengthen the special India-Mauritius ties. Addressing media, External Affairs Ministry spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal said that India has registered a strong protest on the now deleted post of Bangladeshi leader Mahfouz Alam with the Bangladesh side and reiterated that all concerned should be mindful of their public comments.
That you referred to, made by a Bangladeshi senior leader. We have taken this up with the Bangladeshi government. We have actually strongly registered a protest on this issue. We understand that the post that you referred has been taken down. We would like to remind all concerned to be mindful of their public comments. While India has repeatedly signaled interest in fostering relations with the people and the interim government of Bangladesh, such comments underline the need for responsibility in public articulation. And once again to repeat that we have strongly protested against this with the Bangladesh government.
Speaking about the special representative level talks between India and China, the spokesperson said that in the talks held on December 18th, the two sides have reaffirmed their commitment to explore a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable framework for the settlement of the boundary question.
Talks happened on 18th. After that, we put out our press release. Our press release gives you a perspective as to what was discussed. Now, the specific question about the 6-point consensus, I think we can speak for our press release and give you details on that. I can say that, what we have said in our press release, that we have reaffirmed their commitment, both sides have reaffirmed their commitment to explore a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable framework for the settlement of the boundary question in accordance with the political parameters and guiding principles agreed in 2005. There were some questions about this 2005 also. It's a document which is available, publicly available. It is there on our website.
Both the houses of Indian Parliament were adjourned sine die today. Lok Sabha was adjourned sine die amid protests by opposition and treasury benches over the alleged insult to B.R. Ambedkar and directions by Speaker Om Birla to members against holding demonstrations at any gate of Parliament.
माननीय सदस्यगण, मैं आप सभी से पुनः आग्रह करता हूं कि संसद की गरिमा मर्यादा बनाए सबकी सामूहिक जिम्मेदारी है। संसद भवन परिसर में किसी भी द्वार पर किसी भी तरह का धरना प्रदर्शन करना उचित नहीं है।
As the proceedings in the Lok Sabha started, the Speaker called Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal to present a resolution for setting up a joint committee of Parliament to examine the bills related to One Nation, One Election. In the upper house, Union Law Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal moved the motion to nominate 12 members from the Rajya Sabha into the Joint Parliamentary Committee. The motion was passed. The chairman briefed the House on the session's productivity, which stands at 40.03%, which is 43 hours and 27 minutes of effective functioning. The chairman then adjourned the House sine die. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Russian President Vladimir Putin signals a shift in Ukraine's stance, says open to meeting US President-elect Donald Trump. And US government shutdown looms large as Trump-backed spending deal fails in the House.
In light of recent developments, can we expect something different with regard to China-India relations? And is there hope for some kind of stability between these two giants of Asia?
I think we should be prepared that China will always seek in this period ahead to contain India. It seeks to contain India in South Asia, for instance. It seeks to contain India when we speak of expansion of the permanent membership of the Security Council. It has never been a supporter. It has sought to contain India on various fronts. So it obviously sees India as a rival.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Russian President Vladimir Putin emphasized that Russia needs long-term peace and not a ceasefire in Ukraine. He was addressing an annual press conference in Moscow on Thursday. Putin said that Russia has no preconditions for starting negotiations with Ukraine, emphasizing that the country is ready to engage in talks. He added Ukraine operation had seen major changes as Russian soldiers are progressing towards accomplishing their primary goals, making advances on the battlefield, while Ukrainian forces are continuously retreating and are unable to hold their positions. RT correspondent Saskia Taylor has sent us this report from Moscow on Putin's press conference.
Well, a few creaky knees for sure after that absolutely marathon press conference. My first time actually in the hall itself, and what really stood out to me was how the energy of President Putin, it just didn't dip over the course of those 4 hours and 27 minutes. And he was just moving with such ease between a huge range of stories, from the domestic to the foreign, from mortgages to military advances, from natural disasters to the art of negotiation. Now, of course, a huge chunk of the president's words were dedicated to the conflict in Ukraine. That was one of the most asked about topics when it comes to requests from Russian citizens.
Some experts in the West believe that such a missile is easy to shoot down. Well, if those Western experts think so, let them offer us, and let them offer those in the West and the US who pay them for their analysis, to conduct some kind of technological experiment, say a high-tech duel of the 21st century. Let them identify some object to destroy, say, in Kiev. Concentrate all their air defense and missile defense forces there, and we will strike there with the Oreshnik and see what happens. We are ready for such an experiment. Is the other side ready?
Well, obviously that was a little tongue-in-cheek, but something that I really noticed was when continuing that idea and when Putin was discussing what air defences Kiev has at its disposal, he said, we need to ask our guys there what they have. And he said, these are also people who want to rid their country of extremist elements. And personally, I got this strong impression that the Russian leader was actually in contact with people, not just of the military elite, but potentially even the political elite too. But of course, to almost every single question that was about the war, the focus was on negotiation. It has to be noted that the lay of the land as he talked today is very different, of course, to the lay of the land as it was in Istanbul during those peace talks in the spring of 2022, which was scuppered by the British Prime Minister at the time, Boris Johnson. And apparently that was actually just one of 3 deals that Moscow and Kiev signed with Kiev each time, then tearing it up.
So the Kremlin said on Friday that any new G7 sanctions on Russia's oil industry would backfire and that would act to minimize the consequences of any such move and adapt. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov made the comment after being asked on a conference call about a report by Bloomberg News saying that G7 was weighing new oil sanctions.
Of course, we are aware of the discussions that are being held on this matter. Every time such actions lead to our counteraction, that is, we will of course do everything necessary to minimize the consequences of such decisions and ensure our economic interests and the interests of our economic operators.
The 27 European Union leaders gathered in Brussels on Thursday to reaffirm support for Ukraine ahead of the second Trump term. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky attended the summit and called on Donald Trump to join forces with Europe to help save Ukraine after the conflict ends. The plea came amid concerns that the NATO skeptic US President-elect might undermine Kiev's efforts by reducing American support for the conflict.
President Trump is a strong man, and I want very much to have him on our side. For me, it's very important. I want to discuss with him more details about this war. I think it's very important because he was not in this war, because he was not the president. It's understandable. And I want to share with him more details.
Zelensky added that European security guarantees and a frozen conflict would not be enough for Ukraine, which aspires to join the transatlantic military alliance NATO.
We must understand with you that we cannot live with a frozen conflict. When it comes to a ceasefire in any conflict, in any war, people know what will happen after, how it will all end. We need to know what tomorrow is in order to make a ceasefire today. Otherwise, you are going to create a frozen conflict, and that's it. And that's why Ukraine needs security guarantees, a strong position of Ukraine and security guarantees. Of course, Ukraine wants the war to end.
Meanwhile, the European Union announced an additional 30 billion euros of financial support to Ukraine in 2025 after meeting with EU leaders in Brussels.
The 15 sanctions package against Russia we approve this week. This package closes loopholes and limits circumvention and especially targets the so-called shadow fleet. Second, we have already delivered about 130 billion euros of financial support, and we will deliver an additional 30 billion euro in 2025.
US top diplomats arrived in Damascus on Friday for a meeting with new Syrian authorities led by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. The meeting between Washington and Syria's de facto new rulers comes as Western governments are gradually opening channels to Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and its leader Ahmad al-Shara. The group is officially designated as a terrorist group by Washington. The officials will reportedly debate on whether or not to remove the terrorist designation from the group. The US officials will speak with Syrians about their vision for the future of their country and how the United States can help support them, State Department spokesman said. Moreover, they will also seek clues on missing Americans, including journalist Austin Tice. US Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner has raised alarm on Pakistan's burgeoning long-range ballistic missile capabilities. Feiner said that the nuclear-armed Pakistan's ballistic missile capabilities eventually could allow it to strike targets well beyond South Asia, making it an emerging threat to the United States. Speaking a day after Washington announced a new round of sanctions related to Pakistan's ballistic missile development program, including for the first time against the state-run defense agency that oversees the program. Feiner also said that the number of nuclear-armed states with missiles that can reach the US homeland is very small and they tend to be adversarial. The US House of Representatives on Thursday overwhelmingly rejected a Republican-led funding bill aimed at averting a government shutdown, with federal agencies due to run out of cash on Friday night and begin closing down at the weekend. On to sporting action now. Bangladesh clinched an 80-run victory over the West Indies on Friday in the third T20, completing a historic 3-0 series sweep at Kingstown. Zakir Ali led the effort of Bangladesh with his career best knock, and bowlers also put up their best foot forward and sealed their best performance in the format against West Indies, who won 2 editions of the ICC T20 World Cup. With this win, Bangladesh ended the long tour of the West Indies. They started the series with a draw in the 2-match test series and then lost the ODIs 3-0. But the Tigers came back strongly in the T20Is. This is the second time Bangladesh has whitewashed an opponent abroad in a series of 3 or more games. That's it in this broadcast. But before we go, India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you want great content for free, you can download Waves today. So that's it in this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live, and also you can download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. So we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.